hopefully we had some questions. And Melissa, I
Oh,
don't
this
know
is
if you
Cinda. I'm doing
okay.
questions tonight. And we have some really good questions, Mary. We have 4 of them, so you might have to have quick answers. But
Okay.
we're going to go first to a question from Shannon and Lorena. This was referring to poll 1 when we were talking about whether you like to work with the public or not.
Right.
And they said it almost sounds as if working with brokers, retailers, etc. would indicate that you don't like people, yet talking to chefs and buyers at the markets is very difficult. So we're a little confused here.
Okay. Well, I don't want to say that if we sell. I work with people who are middle people sometimes. For instance, I meet the guy that goes over to the Wood River Valley from Boise at 6:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning right off the interstate as I give him quiche and eggs to take over to the Wood River Valley a couple hours away from the Treasure Valley here. He works on behalf of Idaho's Bounty for me. I don't want to indicate that if you're an antisocial kind of person, you only want to deal with brokers, but you're going to be more comfortable doing that, I guess, is what I meant. And so the important thing I think to keep in mind with this polling question is that you're realistic about what it is you like to do and don't like to do. I was going to have Diane do this, but I'm going to do it because I think I'll do it faster. No offense, Diane. But Diane's husband, Tom, he liked being the field manager. He didn't want to have to deal with the public. That was Diane's thing. But there came a summer when Diane needed Tom's support because she couldn't be in town. She had to deal with a family illness, and Tom had to go to the market. He had to go to the farmer's market. Well, what he found out was he actually kind of enjoyed finding out who eats their food and getting to know those people. So now, is Tom going to want to go out and do marketing all the time? No, he isn't. But could he do a couple of hours a week at a farmer's market? Yes. So I don't know if that helps. I hope so.
Yeah, that was good, Mary. Then we had a question from Peggy about the slide about rules and regulations, and she asked if any restrictions, have you encountered any restrictions in your county with roadside stands?
We did. We had a terrible nightmare here in Ada County 3 years ago, I guess it was. I had been calling because I had been thinking I wanted to do an on-farm market for a long time. And then finally the time seemed right for us to do that. We had started an intern program, so we had more labor. I wanted to give those interns the opportunity to do some direct marketing, so I thought doing it on the farm just made sense. So I had been calling my county, Ada County, on and on, on and off for several years, saying this is what I want to do, taking Diane's advice, telling him everything that we were planning to do, and gee, was that okay. Well, it turned out that another friend of mine, a guy named Lee Rice, who's also in Ada County, had suddenly had the county really coming down hard on him. So I called the county again and I said, now, and I'm kind of a fair player this way, you guys, I guess, in some ways maybe to spite myself. But I thought, if Lee's having trouble, I'm over here doing basically the same thing. I want to call the county and remind them that I'm doing the same thing because I don't want to be shut down, for one thing, but also it just seemed like if they were going to pick on one, they should pick on all. So I call them back and I say, hey, I just want to remind you I'm doing this. I don't have, any regulations that you've told me I need to file with you. I've not given you any permit or given you a plan or anything like that. Well, suddenly they wanted all that information from me. They wanted to, they wanted a layout of the farm and where were people going to park and blah, blah, blah. Well, we actually have a very market-friendly farm. We're lucky. We own the private road. We have a ton of parking. It's pretty safe, it's, in other words, pretty flat, not a lot of obstacles for people. But, what happened, to be honest, and I think Ada County will admit this, planning and zoning was really busy until about 4 years ago. and then they had nothing to do, and they needed to justify their jobs. So they started looking at every single small enterprise in the county and trying to decide if people were in compliance. In other words, were the farms in compliance? And what I learned in that was that the reason Lee Rice was being treated differently than I was that we are actually in different county tax zones. And being in different county tax zones means that we have to abide by different rules and different regulations. He was in a much stricter one than was I. And so that was the main reason they weren't really on my case until I got in their face and said, hey, you should be in my case too. So that was kind of pretty stupid.
Good job, Mary.
Yeah, good job, Mayor. But you know,
Yeah.
I was teaching farming classes and telling people they should follow the rules, and you know, I thought I should too. But it worked out really well. I mean, we did a lot of educating with our local county folk and got them up to speed. So everybody is doing fine and worked out good for us.
I told Peggy that this would be a good question to go ahead and put on the discussion forum, because all of the students might want to share what their regulations are in their counties, just kind of as a comparison.
Yeah.
And see what other people are dealing with. Now we have two more quick questions. I think they'll be quick answers. Eileen asks, what percentage of your budget goes to advertising/marketing?
Well, this year for 2012, we've actually lowered it, and partly the reason for that is that we are decreasing one of our markets, so we're only going to do one market. We've stopped doing our on-farm market. It just wasn't making enough money for us, and we've decided instead to try to double our off-farm market, which I think we can do. I think we're being actually realistic about doing that. For our budget, and I'm not trying to be evasive, but I think it's going to end up coming out to be about somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 9% of our budget will be toward marketing. And I'm going to say for marketing, that includes, we always spend at least $1,000 a year on our local public radio station. You know, you're not supposed to call it an ad. We sponsor programming for $1,000 because that's our market, man. People that eat our food listen to public radio. We place advertisements in our local weekly newspaper called the Boise Weekly. We have done some advertising through what's called Journal Broadcasting. It's a local radio conglomerate, radio station conglomerate. We will reach out to the local newspaper and see if there's anything we're doing that might be of interest to them. That won't cost us anything but time. We spend $20 a month to have a website, but I administer that website and I don't pay anybody else to do it. We have high-speed internet because I want to be able to do social media, and you know, everybody has high-speed internet now, mostly, if you can, but I think it's well worth the price for doing that. And then the other thing about marketing too that I also include in that is just signs and that kind of stuff too. So for our farmers markets, we'll have to make some signs and things like that. So for us, budget this year will probably be somewhere around $100,000 to $125,000, and we'll probably spend $7,000 to $12,000 on marketing.
Good. Okay. Now this one you really have to answer quickly because we're out of time. But Lynn asks, if your customers are used to your prices, how do you raise the prices without losing customers? Is there a percentage that would be acceptable? And if you can answer this quickly, we might have to put it on the discussion forum, but give it a try.
I think everybody expects prices to go up every year. I think you just have to try your best to explain why if they ask.
Any percentage guideline?
No, because I really base, you know, I use all of those kinds of pricing that I talked about, but bottom line is if I can't cover the cost of production, it's not worth doing. So if feed costs go up to rate for my girls to feed my ducks by 25%, and I can't control costs somewhere else, I'm going to have to raise prices by 25%.
Okay, thank you, Mary. We had another question, but that we didn't have time to answer, but we'll try to answer that during the discussion forum, I guess. You'll check that out?
Oh, yeah, we'll check in.
Okay, so you can head on.
Great. Okay.
Talk to you later.